In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Dear students, hope you're all fine. Today I'm sharing another video lecture with you, and the topic of this lecture is qualities, importance, and kinds of good reading. The main outline of this lecture is, in this lecture I will talk about qualities of good reading, objects of reading, importance of reading, reading techniques, and kinds of. At the end of this lecture, you all will be able to know about different types of reading skills. You will also be able to know about qualities and importance of good reading skill. So before talking about qualities of good reading, first of all I will tell you what is reading. Reading is one of the most important skills among the four skills of communication. It is a conscious and deliberate process. We can become good readers by practice. In our professional life, we have to deal with material like memos, pamphlets, manuals, journals, reports, and books. We can know about these things if we have the art of reading. First, try to answer the basic questions as to why we read. We read in order to gather information. Reading enriches our knowledge about different fields of life, like listening. Reading too is not just a passive activity. A good reader has to understand the meaning of the words in context. He has to relate sentences to each other and see how information fits together in a meaningful way. Reading requires practice. It also depends on our creativity and critical analysis. So now what are different qualities of good reading? A good reading has following qualities. The first is it is constructive. It means that a good reader reads something to add to his knowledge and information. The second quality of good reading is it is fluent. A good reader is very fast at reading. He does not take pains to understand a thing. His comprehension skills is automatic. It is spontaneous and free from deliberate attention. The third quality is strategic. A good reader reads a thing keeping in view the main theme of the reading material. Last but not the least, the fourth quality is motivated. A good reader enjoys the reading material. He takes interest in it. He feels inspired by it. So these are different qualities of good reading. Now I will talk about objects of reading. Reading is a complex activity to understand a thing. Reading has the following objects. The first is valuable information, as reading gives us valuable information about different areas of life. The second object is enriches our knowledge. It enriches our knowledge on different literary, scientific, and technical topics. The third object is improves our grammar and use of words. It strengthens our knowledge of grammar and use of words. It means it builds up our spelling and pronunciation. The fourth object is it enhances our skill of word recognition, and it also helps us in comprehension. Now I will tell you the importance of reading. A good reader enjoys reading. A student who is fast at reading can understand a paragraph more easily than that of a slow reader. Reading is very important for following reasons. The first is learning of new things. A reader of books and journals learns new things in all fields of life. It may lead him to explore and discover new things for himself. It can lead him to success in different fields of life. Reading endows a reader with exploration and understanding. The second importance is reading may lead a person to his self improvement. It is through reading that he may see the destructive effect of following a life of evils and sins. He may realize the shortcomings of his personality. After reading a good book, he may give up his bad habits and may become a morally sound person. The third importance is inspiration. Reading may inspire you to plunge into action to fulfill good and useful things. You may learn useful recipes for good food cooking. You may learn new ways of playing cricket or chess. You may learn new tunes of music. You can put into practice all these things after you stop reading. The fourth importance is enriches expertise. Reading enriches our experience. When you read a book, you go through the experience of somebody else. You study the shortcomings and mistakes which that person committed in his life. You add to your knowledge about the factors which have brought to him his tragic failure. You try to avoid that. The art of reading, in fact, adds to our art of leading a better life. The fifth importance of reading is tool of communication. Reading is a great tool of communication. It is through reading that we understand the message of the other party. After reading his letter, memo, or notice, we gave him a feedback either verbally or in writings. The sixth importance of reading is enriches creativity. Reading excites our creative and critical thinking. We read something in silence. Silence makes our mind fully attentive and focused on reading material. Our imagination gets inspired. Our thinking develops. The process of reading develops our thinking faculty. We can say that reading is very useful creative activity. Last but not the least importance of reading is amusement. Reading is an enjoyable activity. When we are tired and bored, we read something to become busy mentally. Reading refreshes our mind. We are lost into reading material and enjoy the different incidents, situations, and modes of life written in the book. So these are different important elements which are very important and which shows the importance of reading. Now I'm going to talk about reading techniques and types. All those techniques and types which are important and which are used by a person during reading process. The first technique is skimming, the second is scanning, the third is intensive, the fourth is extensive, and now we are going to discuss all these techniques and types one by one. The first technique of reading is skimming. Skimming means reading something, a passage or article, etc., very quickly in order to find out more or less what it is about. By running our eyes quickly over the text, we can get the gist of main idea without worrying about details. So there are two main reasons that why do we skim. The first reason is when we do not have time or may not be interested. Very often we do not have time or we may not be interested to read everything in detail. We may just want to discover something useful in the reading material without bothering about the details. The second important reason that why do we skim is to decide whether the particulars of a book or article are relevant or not. At times we need to skim through a few pages of a book or an article in order to decide whether the particulars of a book or article deserve a detailed and careful reading or not. If it deserves, then we go for reading. If it does not deserve, then we do not read it. So these are two important reasons that why do we skim. Now I will talk about advantages of skimming. There are many advantages of skimming. Skimming helps us in several ways. It answers the question who the audience is, whether the text is written for professionals, laymen, a particular target group, or the general public. It also answers the question what kind of text it is, whether it is a report, letter, or article, or what is the purpose of the author about his writing of the book, whether it is to describe, inform, or to entertain, or what is the context, whether context is specific or the context is general. Skimming is done when we want to know some specific information related to a topic or theme. The skill of skimming allows us to read the headline, titles, subheadings, and illustrations with captions. Skimming also makes us aware about the dates, names, places, or specific items. It also allows for the reader to review charts, tables, and paragraphs quickly. Now the question is when skimming is required. Skimming is required in three situations. The first is pre-reading. Skimming can be useful if you do it before reading a thing thoroughly. The second is reviewing. It is required for reviewing the text already read. And the third is reading. It is required when we do not want to have a detailed study of a thing. So these are three different situations where we need skimming. The first is pre-reading, when we do it before reading. The second is reviewing, when the text already read. And the third is reading, when it is required when we do not want to have a detailed study of a thing. This is my last topic. In this topic, I will talk about steps in skimming an article. So important steps are, first of all, read the title. After reading the title, read the first line of each paragraph. After reading the first line of each paragraph, read the subheadings. After that, read the facts and figures if you find in the paragraph. Last but not the least, read the final paragraph completely. By following these 5 steps, you will be able to skim the paragraph or the passage completely, and you will get the main idea of the paragraph. So these 5 steps will help you to understand or summarize the passage or paragraph completely. Now I'm going to discuss another important technique of reading, that is scanning. Scanning means looking for a specific piece of information in a text. The purpose of scanning is to locate specific or precise or exact details that a reader is looking for. These specific details can be key ideas, some important words, dates, names, or times. For example, in our daily life, the skill of scanning is frequently used. Suppose we want to know the meaning of a word in dictionary. If we read the whole dictionary, it will be very difficult to know the meaning of that word. We go to the relevant page and find out the relevant word. In the same manner, if we want to know the telephone number of someone in the phone directory, we do not read the whole directory. We open the relevant page and find out the specific number. So it means that scanning is done whenever you are intended to get particular information, any key information. There are many advantages of scanning. The first advantage of scanning is it saves time. The second advantage is we get relevant and necessary information about a specific thing without reading the whole literature. The third advantage is that we separate the relevant material from the irrelevant within no time. And the fourth advantage is we feel comfortable and relaxed while we are searching the relevant material. We are not sidetracked from the main point. So this was all about scanning, that whenever you read for key information, particular information, the technique which is used, that is called scanning. The third important technique is intensive reading. Intensive reading is done when you want to know something thoroughly. It involves two processes, skimming and scanning. With the help of skimming, we take stock of the text and come to know what type of information is given in the text. And by scanning, we arrive at the specific information. By the use of these two methods, we go to intensive reading. In intensive reading, we read a thing thoroughly and employ to it some specific purpose. We do intensive reading when we have our aims and goals before it. We must know why we are going to make an intensive reading. We should identify if we are going to write a research or research work, or are we going to a thesis for higher degree. This method of reading is often used by students who are fond of learning new words from the dictionary. They take backward, find its origin and its various grammatical uses. In this way, they enrich their language. There are also many advantages of intensive reading. The first advantage is intensive reading helps the scholars to study the text thoroughly and with concentration of mind. The second advantage is it is helpful to vocabulary seekers. It helps the student to study each word used in the text with concentration. The third advantage is it promotes the memory of a reader. The reader retains the material learned in his mind for a long time. The fourth advantage is it helps to remember the dates, facts, and figures for a long time. We can retain these things for a long time. The fifth advantage is it is an end in itself. It is not a means to an end. It neither affords us pleasure nor amusement. It is a painstaking activity. Last but not the least, another advantage is It is a friend of research scholars and hardworking students. Now I'm going to talk about the last kind of reading, that is extensive reading. Extensive reading is quite different from intensive reading. In intensive reading, we study for specific purpose. We probe into origin and uses of different ideas. The scholars and learners of knowledge adopt this method. Extensive reading means to study a thing from the point of view of pleasure seeking. The reader studies the text for enjoyment. He studies a large number of novels, fictions, and journals to add to his comfort and pleasure. He has no specific aim before him. So, what's the method of extensive reading? That how to do extensive reading? In order to read a passage or some article extensively, we must use the following method. Try to read books which are a little below our intellectual level. It will help us to study them without consulting a dictionary. We can read as many books as possible. Our main aim is to enjoy them. We can read without knowing the meaning of each and every word. We do not go deep into probing the origin and uses of words and phrases. Now, what are different advantages of extensive reading? Extensive reading provides us pleasure and amusement. It makes our reading capacity better. We begin to read fast. It helps us to enrich our vocabulary. We read a large number of books on one topic. In this way, we gain more than that of intensive reading. It helps increase oral fluency, listening and speaking abilities. The students who do extensive reading develop an attitude to read foreign languages. We begin to read a thing fast and understand it quickly. We can finish books in a reasonable amount of time. So this was all about different kinds and techniques of reading: skimming, scanning, intensive and extensive, and all these techniques are helpful to improve comprehension and reading skills. Now I will talk about Sq3sr method, or how to improve comprehension of the text. So this method is very important for better comprehension of the text. Some of us face great difficulty to understand the text of a book, article, or magazine. The scholars have derived a scheme for a reader to improve his comprehension. The technique is called Sq3R. It means survey, question, read, recite, and review. The main objective of this strategy is to make the students comprehend the written material easily. The strategy has the following advantages. The first advantage of Sq3R method is that it provides a systematic way of understanding novels, magazines, text, books, and other reading assignments. It encourages active reading. In active reading, the reader puts questions to himself to seek information. It connects the reader with the topics he has already read. It sharpens the memory. It helps retaining the material in the reader's brain. Now the question is this, that how to apply Sq3R technique, Sq3R method for better comprehension. Sq3R technique is systematic way of reading. It consists of 5 steps. The first is survey. The purpose of survey is to get a quick view of reading material. You should spend 1 to 2 minutes to have a survey of the material. You should do this in this manner. Read the title, contents, reading and subheadings of the material. Second, fix the name of the chapter in your mind. Third, read the introduction and objectives of a chapter of the book. Fourth, pay attention to the reading and subheadings. Fifth, try to identify the main idea of the reading material. Sixth, look at other clues which may identify the main idea. Seventh, read the summary to see which ideas the author states for specific emphasis or what conclusions are drawn. 8. Look at the important terms given at the beginning or end of the chapter. So this is how you do first step, that is survey. So first thing which is important in Sq3R method, that first of all you need to survey, and you have to follow all these steps which I have already discussed. After survey, another important step is questions. After making a survey of the reading material, make questions out of the reading and subheadings. Suppose paragraph is about unemployment, so you should make questions and try to know what is unemployment. Why does it exist in Pakistan? Why are the educated people remain employed? Such questions and their answers will make the reading material easy to understand. The third step is read. Now you should read the material laying before you. It may be fast or slow. Make slow reading if the reading material is difficult or complex. You can also make notes of the important points. We should try to underline the important places, facts, and figures given in the text. Now we should try to recall the supporting material we had already read in the past. This new material will stick to your mind now. After reading, another important step is recite. Now you should recite the answer to the question that you made. Either recite the answer or writes it down on the paper. Another way to increase your comprehension is to recite the facts and figures given in the reading material. You can also draw a map, a diagram, a chart, etc. It will help you retaining the material in your mind. After recite, another important step is review. Review is the final step in retaining the material to your mind. Review means to recite the material regularly. The recitation of material frequently and regularly sharpens your mind. You can recite the material chapter wise. Regular review puts a chapter back together again. In review, you are trying to answer the questions you have already made. This is the excellent method of learning. It strengthens the retention and the student feels comfortable in the examination hall when he puts down the material on the paper. It is said that this process of Sk3r is slow. True, it is slower than simple reading, but it is a reliable process of comprehending and reading material. So this was all about Sk3r method. I hope you have got the concept. Dear students, in this lecture, we discussed qualities, importance, and kinds of good reading. I hope you have got the concept. Thank you.